Hello people, Linker here on the test server, and today 1.56 is live. If you want to get on the test server for free to prepare for everything, check out the description below. Anyways, this video we're gonna talk about how things turned out with Kren, Carnage, the new TR boss meta, and much more. So like and subscribe, and let's get to it. Kren, we can finally talk about him as scaling how good he is. For those of you who asked, the AFKArena part of him did not get released. Instead, he's a really thematic mauler that I really think brings something unique to the table. The biggest part of it has to be the ultimate. You need to know how to set the thing up. It requires enemy on the enemy side of the field. Second, he's channeling, so think Isabella, meaning he can get stunned. But that's where the similarities end, because unlike Isabella, that thing is area of effect. The base scaling is 2200%. That thing hits many enemies and he gains energy while doing it, allowing him to chain these. So that's really big damage. These are very big numbers, especially if we consider all kinds of bonuses that go to him. We'll talk about that in just a second. Now his 3. That thing sets bomb that explode and stun, but these ones are behind the enemy. 25 seconds of stun already made one hero interesting in Verk, but because of the positioning, you get to control these with knockback. You will absolutely enjoy aggressive allies that will allow him to do this, anything from Titus to Estrelda. This might also counter certain enemy heroes like Laika that kind of position differently or move around the battlefield, think Rosaline maybe, but it doesn't end there. Kren gains 15% extra attack until the end of battle. With his high base attack you can see over here and the profile page, this is like an attack bonus from Albedo. Sure, he's no Ainz, but he's going to love allies that both CC with knockback and buff him with this. He can provide himself with that kind of CC though, because his 4 that gains immunity frames as he charges to shoot and knock back enemies. I'll show that in just a second. Lastly, the 2 is an AoE buff, kind of like a Salus gas cloud, giving allies 8 seconds of crit immunity, 25 crit ratings, and more bonuses in the furniture. In the end game where crit ratings are through the roof, this is going to be pretty meaningful. It's going to take some skill to use because you're going to have to target it at a very specific area if you want it to really work. But crits happen all the time in the end game, like they buff the enemy damage significantly. This is even more true in PvP where some sets really rely on that, so we'll talk about that more in just a second. And the thing about Kren is that his buffs add up in a nice way. So he gains up to 45% attack from the bombs, his signature item. Now that thing has attack and haste on it, and look at that ability. After 3 scaling down to 1 normal attack, his auto attacks deal 40% extra damage and knockback and a 2-second stun. His arrows become Sophia's orb basically, but much faster. That allows him to really lock out enemies in 1v1 situations. Also 1v2s, he has many tools in his kit we'll talk about to kind of lock down. They're a really cool mauler that needs to win more, needs to kind of spiral, you kind of get the vibes. The furniture is pretty interesting with that guy. I don't think it absolutely requires, even though it requires the scaling, it allows the ally buff to reduce the enemy haste by 40 points. That's the 3 out of 9. That really hurts celerity kind of heroes in campaign, but also in PvP, because they can't crit you, they attack slower, everything goes slower for them. Also, the 9 out of 9 is an extra bomb. I think it's nice to have, it's not necessary, because if you can really point the bomb, if you know what you're doing, pointing it towards those crowded sides of the enemy, you'll be fine even with the 3 out of 9. But this guy does enjoy investment, so even the stats on this thing, like if you look at some of the furniture pieces, he gains crit amplification, he gains attack rate rating. You can tell this guy really enjoys the kind of things that he can receive from the furniture. I know you people rely on me for accurate analysis for good endgame priorities, so I'll say it like it is. If he wants to compete for endgame carry viability, he has tough competition in the meta. However, if invested, I think he's one of the first maulers that can do it decently. The numbers on the ultimate are good. He can chain these ultimates to get spiraling power buffs conditionally. His CC can be strong too. He's competing for the Isolde slot. Now while Isolde isn't the most consistent, he's still arguably in the top 7 endgame sets, which means these trickier Isolde to use can see some viability. How much exactly though? That's a little tricky to tell. We'll need to test him with many heroes, but I suspect in the average set he'll pale in comparison to Isolt, but he'll still be above the average. That is a bold saying considering the amount of mauler carries that fell short in the past, but I think this guy will be able to make it work if given investment even in the very end game. For a mauler, being one of the top 10 endgame carry sets is incredible success, and if you want to use him as a support, you'll need to have a very specific idea in mind for a smoke bomb, but if used correctly, I think can also be above average. While not on the mainstream meta, Kren is actually not a bad mauler carry, which is great overall. I also want to talk to you about the new warrior artifact Carnage. In the video, we said it has some tough competition in the haste attack accuracy combination from Chaosbringer. We said unless the new artifact is incredible, it'll just have a hard time fitting in. Guess what? They gave it haste 2 and much more. First, the base stats. That thing has attack speed as base, which upgrades as you level it up. While the attack speed does not reduce cooldowns, it makes heroes attack faster, gaining more energy. If we've learned anything from I at all, is that that's an awesome bonus, and it comes alongside a small boost to attack, which is awesome. Second, the ability grants 20 haste and 40 life leech for 8 seconds, once every 18 seconds, so average half the time if your health is below 50%, which you'll want to maintain using this artifact. My hot take would be this doesn't replace Chaosbringer in TR because it's less effective haste even if you manage to maintain your health at the threshold, which is very tricky, but for campaign this thing is huge. In settings where you often are behind, you go below 50% health in your carries like Source and Isolt that needs to take damage, it can beat Chaosbringer with the right attack and haste bonus. The devs seem to like warriors. First the broken tree abilities, now these two artifacts. While this one does fall short if you maintain high HPS and as a whole in my opinion compared to Chaosbringer, certain heroes will be able to use it to pull off incredible things. I'll be looking forward to see that. Lastly, I also want to mention the Grotesque Mage. So the Grotesque Mage is this new TR boss. I want to briefly talk about him. He shakes up the TR meta. Would you like me to update my TR guide? Let me know below. Anyways, you get 5 ultimates. After the 6th one, he vanishes pretty quickly. The boss has access to the team attack debuff as well as the focused one from past events, so if your healer is bad and your carry is left alone to 1v1, the carry will deal less damage, so focus your healers. We already know this is healer meta. What's cool is the Phantom. That's what I really like. It steals enemy buffs. This guy will steal your Twins buff, your Mortis buff, your Rowan attack buff, will really shift things up in the TR meta against the current tide, so I anticipate some celerity hero cores doing well, meaning completely different than what we're used to see. Stuff that works without the ultimate, stuff that's able to just land through raw damage. Aaron might work here, Athalia might work here. I'll wait to see what people come up with in the leaderboards. As for the Feral reworks and reinforcement, they aren't live yet, so to wrap it up, Kren is the new mauler carry that might actually be viable. Carnage is a warrior artifact to gain extreme bonuses when low on HP, and Grotesque Mage is a new type of TR boss that will take specific teams and manual ults to beat. So with that, like and subscribe, help out the channel. Also check out the BlueStacks link below if you do want to test out the test server. Has all kinds of settings, new update recently made it much more stable, but for now, I've been Linker. Peace.